Bev again, and another video. And this one is on push-up physics, but it doesn't involve bras, okay? And the other thing I want to mention, I have this hat on because I really want to go skiing. And in Ontario, here in Canada, they've closed the hills and I'm really mad. Anyway, I thought, well, at least I can wear my toque, right? Okay, so what is mechanical physics? Well, it's concerned with the motion of objects under the action of forces. So obviously the object, when you're weightlifting, is your body, and the forces involve weights. So I want to talk about leverage and push-ups. So you know how a lever works. A lever works by reducing the amount of force needed to move or lift an object. So we're going to talk about leverage with push-ups in terms of biomechanics, okay? So the best analogy that I can think of to understand how a lever works is a wheelbarrow. And if you try to lift a 50-pound bag of dirt just straight up from the ground, it's pretty darn hard, right? But if you put that 50 pounds at the end of a wheelbarrow, and the wheelbarrow is a long lever, and the pivot point for the lever is the wheel, okay, or close to the wheel, and you lift it up, whoa, you can just push that 50 pounds around all day, right? And that's the advantage of leverage. And that's what I want to talk about for push-ups. So I'm not an artist, so you'll have to put up with my diagrams here. So here is a person doing a regular push-up, right? They have their arms on the floor and their feet on the floor. And so the feet is the pivot point, right? They go up and down. And basically you've got a center of mass, which is the average location of the majority of the mass in your body, okay? So it's in between your head and your feet, somewhere, depending on, what body structure you have. So somewhere around in the middle. And the lever that we're going to talk about is between this pivot point of your feet and your arms or your shoulders. That's the length of the lever. Okay, so the distance in terms of leverage, when we talk about changing push-ups to make them easier or harder, what we're going to be dealing with is the length of distance between the center of mass and the pivot point. Okay, so this distance is very important in this discussion. In a regular push-up, you're going to be pushing about 60-65% of your body weight, roughly. And gravity is going to be pulling you down at your center of mass. And to counter that, the floor will be pushing up at your feet and your hands. So those things are kind of in equilibrium, all those forces, right? And as I said in another video, because the floor doesn't move and it's pushing you up, the force from the floor, this is a closed chain kinetic exercise. Okay, another thing I want to say, whenever I do push-ups for any of you that have any wrist issues, if you use a pair of dumbbells and straighten up your wrists that way and do your push-ups with your hands on dumbbells, kind of makes it a bit easier. All right, so let's figure out what can we do with this distance. If we change that, can we make it easier or harder? So let's take, and you all know that doing push-ups on a wall is easier than doing them on the floor. And why is that? We come down to this distance again. So here we have the arms on the wall, the person is doing push-ups, and here's normally where the center of mass is. But when you stand and push up against the wall, this center of mass is going to come closer to the pivot point. So what happens is the weight is lower on your body, it's farther away from your arms, and there is less force on the hands. So you're only going to be pushing about 40% of your body weight. And it's a similar sort of percentage on the knees, okay? Slightly different mechanics, but on your knees, it's equally about 40% of your body weight. If you want to make it harder, we see that moving the center of mass closer to the pivot point makes it easier. How do we move it closer to the arms, that is further away from the pivot point? Well, you can put your feet higher than your hands. So I happen to, when I do them, I put my feet on a barbell, on a Smith machine, for example, and then I can put my feet, you know, higher and higher and higher as I progress. But you can use a box, you can use a bench, whatever you want to use. But what happens is, contrary to over here, where you're moving closer to the pivot point, you're moving far, your center of mass is being moved farther away from your pivot point, which is your feet. So what happens opposite to this side is the weight is higher on your body. It's closer to your arms. So there's more force on your hands here. There's less on your hands here. So how do you progress? You can take a wall push-up. You can move it to a knee push-up. Then you can go to a regular push-up, and you can even put weight on your back in a regular push-up, and that will move this up a little bit. Or you can put your feet higher than your hands. And the higher those feet are in relation to your hands, then the more of the weight will come down and put more force, even more force on your hands. So I hope this has helped understand. Back to the wheelbarrow analogy. You know, the longer the lever, right? The longer those arms are, for example, on a wheelbarrow, the easier it is going to be to push that weight. And it's the same argument that the weight is farther and farther away from the hands or the arms or the shoulders or whatever, okay? So I hope this helps. It's sort of a simple concept, but you know, I struggled a bit with how to explain it. It got complex, so I don't know. Hopefully this helps, all right? So I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.